All right, folks, the continuing fight against voter suppression rages in the country, in courtrooms across the country, folks. In Florida, a stunning ruling by a federal judge who did not hold back blasting the racist voter bill in Florida. And not only did he call out racists in Florida, Republicans, he called out the Supreme Court. Yes, folks, this case is absolutely shocking. Now, so here's the deal. The racists in Florida, what they did was they passed SB 90, which this federal judge ruled is unconstitutional. Yo, in a 288-page ruling, U.S. District Chief Judge Mark Walker blocked these significant bills, the components of the bill, from going into effect because they suppress specifically black voters. He said, quote, a requirement that third-party voter registration drives include warnings such as telling voters their registrations might not be done in time to vote. That's in the bill, y'all. New limits on ballot drop boxes, a new law criminalizing the act of helping voters waiting in line to vote. Y'all, they actually passed that, okay, which includes snacks. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the bill into law earlier this year. Yet this judge ripped it to shreds. I'm going to read some of the things that he said, but first I'm going to bring in Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, joining us from Atlanta. Cliff actually was one of the witnesses who testified in this case. Cliff, going through this, I have seen some cold-blooded, hardcore words from federal judges in some rulings. This judge did not hold back against Florida.
Hey, Roland, good to see you. No, you're absolutely right. This judge did not hold back at all. He used very strong language, but not only strong language, he also had a very strong remedy, which is important because a lot of times you'll see folks that will use strong language either legislatively or perhaps in a legal case, but then fall short on a remedy. This judge not only declared certain parts of this bill to be unconstitutional, he then went farther to do what's often referred to as a bail-in process, where basically said that the state of Florida on certain types of actions need to seek pre-clearance, the same type of pre-clearance that was gutted from the Voting Rights Act by the Supreme Court, who he criticized, but that they would, on any future actions that they try to take regarding these provisions, that they would have to get pre-clearance for the next 10 years. That is a strong remedy. That's the kind of remedy we need to see more of these courts coming up with.
And speaking of that, he challenged the Supreme Court, saying they've been all over the map on these cases.
Yeah, I mean, he was very direct and very blunt. You know, he's basically put the Supreme Court in line with the very state legislatures that have been pushing the voter suppression. And so, again, very strong words. You know, hopefully what we're hoping is that it will hold up on appeals. At least, you know, even if they don't hold up the strong language that he used, that they'll hold up the essence of the decision, and particularly the essence of the pre-clearance bail-in that he announced. But yes, he did not pull any punches in criticizing the Supreme Court, which you don't often see coming from these lower courts, because they know at some point that these decisions are going to reach the Supreme Court. So, you know, it's very much a courageous decision. It shouldn't be courageous, right? Because it's right on the merits, right? It's to a certain extent, it's common sense. He's only speaking truth, right? And so there's nothing really, you shouldn't think that it should take some courage to just speak the truth about what has been so blatant in front of us, that these states are pursuing voter suppression, and that too often the Supreme Court has been going along with them in doing so. It's strong language, but it's desperately needed, and we're hoping that it sets a pattern for future rulings.
Mark Joseph Stern is a senior writer for Slate. He posted a series of tweets that I actually reposted. This is what he said. In his decision blocking most of Florida's new voter suppression bill, Judge Mark Walker explicitly calls out other courts, including SCOTUS, for putting the right to vote, quote, under siege by, quote, gutting the Voting Rights Act. He also said, after quoting MLK below, Judge Walker writes, federal courts would not countenance a law denying Christians their sacred right to prayer. They should not countenance a law denying Floridians their sacred right to vote. Because he also wrote, because Florida, quote, has repeatedly, recently, and persistently acted to deny black Floridians access to the franchise, Walker placed the state back under pre-clearance, requiring federal approval for any future changes to election law. Then he said, following a long study of Florida's, quote, horrendous history of racial discrimination in voting, Walker writes, at some point when the Florida legislature passes law after law disproportionately burdening black voters, this court can no longer accept that the effect is incidental. Greg, that is strong language from a federal judge.
Absolutely. And Cliff, brother, what you said is so important. You have to have some courage. If Charles Hamilton in Houston, if Spotswood Robinson and Oliver Hill, if Constance Baker Motley had taken the approach that we'll just kind of go along and take what they give us, we wouldn't be here. This is my problem with the conversation that we had with the California legislature on reparations. Sometimes you have to stand up for what's right. Now, he knows he's going to be overturned by the Supreme Court. But in your mind, brother, having participated in this, and then, I haven't read all of it yet. I just downloaded it and I started reading it, but he bringing that fire, as you say.
Well, we say he's bringing the funk.
The funk, brother. He is bringing it. Cliff, brother, how important is it for us to understand that these narrow interpretations of the U.S. Constitution are judicial interpretations? They are not the letter of the Constitution. And if we just go out here and get the right people on the bench, they can be overturned immediately. And the decision we saw today will indeed become the law of the land if we will get up off our asses and put people in office who will appoint the judges to read the Constitution the way that Judge Walker read it today. How important is it for our people to understand that what they're ruling is not in the Constitution? This is just 9 cats in robes deciding this is the way they want to read it.
Yeah, what you said is so important, Greg. What you said is so important, Professor Carr, because at the end of the day, there are people that are going to say, well, this will be overturned. It's not important. It is important that we establish a record, right? It's important that we establish a decision using such strong language. Yeah. It's important that become a part of the record, because that then becomes the basis by which future decisions are made. Just like it's important, this is connected to the battle going on right now for the Supreme Court. You got some people saying, oh, Ketanji Brown Jackson, doesn't matter, it's still going to be a 6-3 court. The nature of whether it's her or Sotomayor, the nature of whatever dissents that they may do becomes important, because it's only a matter of time when you have folks speaking that truth, interpreting, as you said, in a way that makes common sense, that speaks plainly, right, that speaks directly to the racism and the white supremacy. When you have those decisions or when you have those dissents, it becomes a record that then sets the pattern for the future victories that we are going to have. So this is a very strong decision. Regardless of what happens on appeal, this is going to become part of a pattern and of a record, which, like you say, if there are more judges that show this type of courage, if there are more selections, appointments, or elections, right? Because we got to take these judge positions seriously. These Supreme Court, a lot of these Supreme Courts in these states, when you look at what's been going on with the gerrymandering, in a lot of these cases, it's some state Supreme Courts that are sending some of these racist maps back to the legislature. We have got to take Supreme Court and other judge positions just as seriously, the same way that the Black Lives Matter movement taught us that we got to take DAs and sheriff races seriously.
Well, in fact, the ruling just came down in New York State where a judge has overruled, found unconstitutional, the Democrats' map, thrown it out, saying it was too heavily gerrymandered, is ordering them to draw new maps. And so that's a case where Democrats have lost. They've been winning cases in other places, but he ruled against Democrats because they were trying to craft a significant advantage for them in the state of New York. Larry, this is also what Mark Joseph Stern wrote, what the judge said. After canvassing the Supreme Court's wildly inconsistent and partisan application of the Purcell principle, Judge Walker writes, quote, in short, without explaining itself, the court has allowed its wholly judge-made prudential rule to trump some of our most precious constitutional rights. Republicans don't say jack about judicial activists there.
No, of course they don't, because when, they're worried about, chalking up the wins. So, Roland, I'm in Florida, and it feels like I'm behind enemy lines. So first of all, thanks, Cliff, for all the work that you do. And so, dealing with these issues, essentially what they're trying to do is bring us back to Jim Crow, right? So since 1965, when the Voting Rights Act passed, they've since then spent decades trying to erode the law. And you see in terms of what's happening in gerrymandering and obviously in Florida. But a question I have for Cliff is, Cliff, can you talk a little bit? We have a governor's race and a Senate race in the state of Florida, right? These are really high profile. Florida is ground zero for culture wars. Yeah, you call it whatever you want to call it. So how can we talk to Black folks about what this judge said and the importance of voting in these elections, this year, and can kind of galvanize Black folks in our state to come out to vote, because it's key, especially that Senate race. What are some of the things we should be doing in the state of Florida to get Black folks activated?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the question. It's been our philosophy that Black voters matter. And for years, even before we formed the organization, I'm talking about me and my dear friend, Sister Latasha Brown, that we got to speak to our folks about our issues, right? If you look at our shirts, our hoodies or whatever, we always have this saying on the back of them that says, it's about us. We got to speak clearly to the issues that we know our communities care about. And so whether you're talking about the governor's race, we got to talk about like what it is that this governor has been doing, in terms of our schools, in terms of teaching about our history, in terms of COVID, which, as Roland was just talking about, the racial disparities in terms of COVID, which is not over. It is still impacting our communities disproportionately, both in terms of health, but also in terms of the economic impact. We got to have those discussions with our folks so that we are crystal clear about why that governor's position matters, about why this Senate position matters, about what it is that we could get done in the Senate if we actually had 2 more seats, right? One which could be from Florida, another one that could be from someplace like, I don't know, Wisconsin or Ohio or Pennsylvania. But why this Florida Senate seat is so important, not just for what happens in Florida, but what happens to Black communities in Florida and across this country in regards to health, in regards to economic justice, in regards to, I mean, even just looking at what was signed yesterday, the Emmett Till, that's something that could not happen if we didn't have a certain type of Senate, in place. So we just need to speak to our folks about the issues that we know our communities care about and connect it to these positions. And there are some very clear connections that, if we have those conversations with people that sometimes don't get that knock on the door, that's the other piece of it. We got to be willing to have the conversations, but we also got to be willing to talk to some folks that, quite honestly, the party and even some candidates don't usually talk to. That's what we try to do when we work with local groups, community-based groups, and give them resources. Folks in Florida know how to get it done. They need to have the resources in order to do so and have these conversations with our community.
And hey, Reese, and just so folk out there wondering how we feel about voting here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, I'm gonna show y'all this here. Y'all go to my iPhone. I'm gonna show y'all this here. This is literally y'all in our studio. So as y'all see, we have these murals on the wall. That's one of the murals we have right there in our studio. Just so folk understand how we roll. Just so folk understand how we roll. That's what we got right here in the studio. Reese, because also Black Voters Matter being huge supporters of the show. Reese, let me go ahead and read you this one here, and then you get a comment. Check this out. Stern also writes this here. Actually, let me do this here. Let me turn off the screen mirroring from my phone, put it back on my computer so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Let's see here. All right, here we go. This I love, Reese. This is perfect for you. An interesting aside, Judge Walker notes that many contemporary politicians who recite that one MLK quote are misrepresenting MLK's actual beliefs, which were far more nuanced and skeptical of color blindness as the cure for racism's ills.
Well, we know for a fact that Ron DeSantis is very much attuned to his discriminatory practices towards Black voters because he has an abhorrent history in recent history, actually just last year. And for instance, holding open the congressional seat that was held by the late, great Alcee Hastings to deny representation for almost a year, 9 months or so. Then there were also 3 Black elected officials who resigned from their positions to run for that seat, who he refused to hold special elections for, essentially denying representation for those districts until the very last week or a couple of weeks left in the legislative session for this year. So he is absolutely, with laser-like precision, targeting Black voters. He is leaving no stone unturned. It's not even just about targeting them for voter registration or actual voting. It's about completely denying them representation altogether. So, Cliff, I'm interested in hearing your take on, should it stand, puts Florida back into pre-clearance. And so we know that is about as strenuous as it gets nowadays in terms of the kinds of requirements. Do you see that kind of pre-clearance requirement preventing Ron DeSantis from pulling the kinds of disgusting tactics that he used to deny representation from, largely Black districts ever again?
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything past DeSantis, right? I mean, he's gone as far as creating a electoral police force, right? He has no hesitancy to try to do something that he knows is blatantly illegal, and under the belief that, well, they're gonna have to catch me, right? They're gonna have to enforce this, like they're gonna have to force him to do right. And so we know that even with the pre-clearance order, that he is still going to try to do some stuff that flies in the face of this ruling. He's already said that he doesn't really take this ruling seriously because he believes that it's going to be overturned on appeal. So at the end of the day, we've still got to be vigilant. This is a victory. This is a clear victory. It's strong language. It's going to be precedent for the future, but we've still got to be vigilant. We still got to know that this governor and all of his minions are still going to try to do what they do squarely to attack Black voting. We got to keep in mind that all of this stuff that they're trying to do in Florida, in spite of the fact that Trump had still won the state, is squarely aimed at Black voters because they see the trends. They see that with our increasing power. They see the way that we came out and used the vote by mail process that traditionally Republicans had used to their benefit. They see that we used it and wound up getting more votes through that than what they usually are able to get. That is what they're targeting. And so we've got to be crystal clear about that. We got to remain vigilant. We got to continue to organize and educate our folks in their communities, in our communities, because at the end of the day, Ron DeSantis, from the moment he said, people forget when he was running 4 years ago, the whole, don't monkey us up, right? People forget that remark. He let us know early on who he was. And everything that he's done for the past 4 years has been consistent with the racism that he showed in the midst of that campaign. So we got to be clear about who it is and what it is that we're up against. But I remain confident that as long as we do our work, as long as we plan our work and work the plan and talk to our folks and get our folks to believe that we got power, which we do, we can defeat this white supremacy that DeSantis is pushing in Florida, and we can shock the country.
All right, Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. We appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Hey, folks, welcome back. Patrol Grooming, of course, is a men's grooming company that delivers on this promise every day to men everywhere. Everything we do, every product we make is designed to help you to present your best self. Now, y'all see me. I'm sitting here wearing a suit today, but clean shaven. This is the video from this morning as I was using Patrol Grooming's products. You can actually see it right there. Folks, it's a promise they have kept since 1991 when they first introduced the Bump Control brand, the #1 men's product for a smooth, bump-free, shave, and silky skin. Millions of customers count on their exceptional skincare products, which can be found at more than 30,000 retail stores in more than 50 countries around the world. Now you can have exceptional beard and skincare products that are as unique as you are. Brothers, as we prepare to head back out into the world as COVID restrictions are being lifted, it's time to be smooth and clean. Y'all know how we do. That shaggy look, it got to go. Visit www.patrolgrooming.com to order a Patrol Grooming box and use this discount code, #Roland30, #ROLAND30 for a 30% discount at checkout. And we certainly appreciate Patrol Grooming being a partner with us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now
We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?